Greetings there, travelers. It's me, Wingover Gimble, famous gnome bird. Today I'm bringing you the creation story of the world of Loch Realta. You see, this world wasn't always how it is now. It used to be quite different. Let us dive back thousands of years ago. The world that is known as Loch Realta was once a desolate planet, devoid of life. The waters were poisonous. The air above the sea was a constant raging maelstrom that would destroy all, and the earth was sick from the waters that fed it for centuries. When a hole appeared in the fabric of reality and the creatures began escaping from the far realms, the gods across numerous worlds in the multiverse had to come together to discuss this. Naturally, none could agree on anything, except this hole needed to be taken care of. A temporary solution was put in place. They would take a world and place it in that tear to hold the line while they thought up a more permanent solution. It was then that the gods found the world of Loch Realta, and its chaotic and destructive lands drew their eye. Though the waters were poison, though the earth was sick, though the storms were fierce, this was a planet they could use, because they would not be disturbing any previously existing kingdom. It was a blank slate. First, the deities of wind and storm stepped into the world. The raging maelstrom whipped about all around them, but they knew they needed to calm this before their other siblings could work. They battled the storm itself for days, losing one of their own against the poisonous maelstrom. At the end of their great battle, they were able to push it back across half the planet, and when they found their sibling's body, they had it placed inside a great Magitech machine so they may live on, flying in the skies and holding back the great storm. They became known as the Great Machine of Spearguard, the guardians of winds and seasons. The deities of earth and stone were next to arrive, needing to raise the earth from the ocean bed to create the great continents, islands, mountains, and valleys. They knew this task would be difficult, seeing how much the siblings before them struggled. First, they drew forth a great pillar in the center of the area that was cleared. There they danced for 15 days, their footwork reverberating throughout the planet, shifting the earth and stone loose. The poison of the land burned their lungs and scorched their feet. They danced through this crippling pain, and on the 15th night, they all jumped as one and brought down a great reverberation that echoed throughout the planet, pushing the land upwards, creating the continents we see today. When the dust settled, the deities were no more. Instead, there was just a great mountain range that made up the central isle. The deities worried how many more this land would claim, and decided it was best that they begin to deal with the poison that had claimed many already. Even though the earth deities raised the land above the sea, it was still quite sick, and the air hung with a staleness about it. A group of deities dedicated to purity and healing walked the lands, chanting and sprinkling oils and water for 7 days and 7 nights. The poisons whispered to them their doom, told them their actions were futile. As the deities wandered, the poisons sneakily slipped into their robes and began infecting these otherwise pure beings. As the days passed, they grew sickly, and their walks slowed, but they understood the dangers of not having this land, and pressed on. When they finally arrived to purify the lands the earth deities had brought together, they all arrived at a cliff facing the sea. Together they joined hands as the sun peeked over the horizon. The other deities gasped as they saw the pantheons of purity and healing. They were covered in sores, open wounds, and all their eyes were clouded. They were blinded from the poison. They smiled pain-filled smiles as they felt the sun's rays cast upon them. And they all fell together into the ocean, completing their final task of purifying the waters. Now that the earth, sky, and waters were just right, the last ingredient this planet needed was life. A great and old deity stood above the planet looking in. Their wizened eyes saw all the possibilities that were just waiting to spring forth. They clasped the planet in their hands, and tears began falling down as they wept for their brethren. This was the first rainfall of the newly created Loch Realta. As the rain fell, light glimmered among the raindrops. These shining orbs of light hurtled across the lands, springing forth plants and animals wherever they went. Great forests of trees shattered through the earth, springing hundreds of feet tall. Endless plains of waving grass formed as though creating a green sea of their own. Hardy plants and animals took to the mountains and brought life where there was just stone, and the deserts blossomed with a life that was only apparent to a watchful eye. As life spread throughout the tendrils, the air grew sweet with the smell of flowers and fruit. Resources were bountiful, and all that would live here would never fear of having nothing to fill their stomachs. 2 last teardrops fell from the god's eyes. 1 drop turned into a beautiful shining light falling towards the valley that would be known as the Wilds, giving life to great and powerful beasts the size of buildings. The other teardrop was caught by a strange wind. It flew into the maelstrom. It sailed for days upon days upon days before falling into the great oceans, and no one is sure what happened after that. Pleased with their work, the deities looked down at the planet that would be their first line of defense against the far realms. It claimed many divine lives, but was a necessary tool to combat against these creatures. Great magitech was outfitted in each land, and deities of plenty ensured the lands were rich in every resource imaginable, even some new ones. As the building blocks were in place, the next step was the Great Migration. And I do hope you enjoyed this tale of the creation of Loch Realta. Thank you, travelers, for stopping by my Inn of the Seven Dice. I bid you all adieu.